most of them give the ATM cards to the ladies so they can use, which means that they actually have access to the economic access. So do you think you will come up with some other indicators about how women can be included in the finance? Thank you very much.
That one? Yeah. Or is it here? Oh, yeah.
Excuse me.
I don't have their names, though.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, I would like to thank you for the opportunity. My name is Fleury Paramita Priyanti. I'm from Indonesia. Here I represent myself and the company, and I would like to ask you about, the three of the panels about something related to the gender stereotyping. The first question is actually about how to overcome for the women in the rural areas where they have opportunities actually to do microfinancing for their own businesses, but they don't actually have the ideas how to market it. Because in my place, in the business that I'm doing now, I do manufacturing and then I export the products overseas. Because alhamdulillah, I have the opportunities and chances and the educations to do so. But for those women who can actually apply for the microfinancing, they don't have the access to market the products. In the end, they would just like to prefer for just, ma'am, let me just work for you, because even though we get the financing, we get the funding, but we don't know how to market the products anyway, so we cannot even pay back the funding. So I would like to ask about how to overcome about this. And number two, the other business that I'm actually doing is the industrial estate in East Java. It's called Jati Proton International. And this industrial estate will inshallah be absorbing the employments. But when we would like to propose investors and for the presentations, and I face so many gender stereotyping, and they always think like women, especially in Indonesia, they don't do such businesses. So I would like also to ask about, I thought that worlds are more open for such cases, and I don't think that people are now actually open for Muslim women from Indonesia who do businesses in international industries. And number three is actually how IDBG can contribute for the economic development for women in Indonesia and in general. Thank you so much.
I think now we would like to invite the first speaker to respond. You did respond? Once. Do you have anything?
Can I?
Yeah, okay. And then you will be next.
I'll try to say a few. Thank you for your very thought-provoking questions. Yes, okay. Just the question regarding the empowered women, whether they communicating well with policymakers. I think this is one of the issues that we thought was important, and that is why we recommended the prize for women, women's contribution to development, because we want role models. We want role models of successful women in order to give encouragement to policymakers and to other women. And they have an important role. There are empowered women, and I'm proud to see in several Islamic countries and in the financial world, we have quite successful women. The governor of the Central Bank of Malaysia is a woman, is a very powerful woman. I don't know to what extent she's promoting women's issues, but she in herself is a role model to women in the Islamic world. So this might even address your question about stereotyping. No woman you wouldn't expect women to be in the Islamic financial world, yet we have quite several influential women in the Islamic financial world, and they are even not only as governors of central banks of Malaysia, but also in the Sharia advisory board, which is another stereotype that you would not expect women to contribute. So we do have role models, and they can play a big role, and I think they are playing a big role just by being so successful in their areas of expertise. Just a question with just to address the socio-cultural barriers and the values of Islam. I'm not an Islamic scholar, but my interpretation of Islam does not discriminate against women. It is culture, and it is culture that we need to change, and not our values and not our religion. If we interpret Islam properly, we will find that women is definitely given her rightful place in the world, and so we need to address the cultural problems. And I think this will gradually change with education. When you talked about a woman, or I want to touch upon a woman being given her ATM card, you're talking about a small minority of women. We are talking about the majority of women who do not have access to financial services, who do not have access to financing in general. And I think in rural areas, this is definitely a discrimination which needs to be addressed. And it needs to be addressed by education, by financial awareness of both genders, women and men.
Thank you. I think we are going to repeat ourselves. Empowerment of women, I always will say it's through education. When a woman has education, she will know her rights. She will claim her rights. She will know exactly how to deal with all kinds of way of life. Let me just give you an example. Once I found my father and my mother counting money, and I started laughing. This was the first time Nene and Baba were counting money. And I said, I just want to ask you a question. I'm sure this money is my mother's money. And they laughed. And my father said, oh, yes. I said, uh-huh. Once you finish counting, what are you going to do? My mom said, I'm going to put it in my bank account. I said, wow. She had gone through literacy. Therefore, she knew that she could have access to a bank account. She just had a bank account, so whatever she was gaining now, she was putting it in. She said, he is just helping me to count. And I said to Baba, in smiling, you want to know how much she has. But you see how literacy is important. Financial literacy is important. So changing the mindset is really through education again. And, well, my colleague from the OIC said that I didn't talk about the plan of action. You see how communication is important. If you do not communicate the good things you are doing, we will not know. I'm sitting in Paris or in Guinea. I didn't know about it. I read it in the plane while I was coming. And this is because my sister from the IDB has sent it to me. So communicate, please. Communication is very important. Next, well, education, education, education. We have to know, we have to read the Quran ourselves and interpret it. Don't allow men to interpret the Quran for us, dear sisters. It's very important. Khadija, the first wife of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wasn't she a businesswoman? Therefore, the Quran, Islam, is for financial inclusion of women. So, I think it was culture, and we can fight our culture through education again. So education, education, education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herzomo.
Thank you for the questions, and I would like to respond on the mindset of gender equity. I think our policy is gender mainstreaming through every development sectors. On education, we also do gender mainstreaming in the education sectors, and now they have policy that parity ratio of the enrollment is equal to 1. So for us in Indonesia, at the basic education, we have reached almost 100% for women. So it's, and then as far as I know, I learned from professors that the mindset changing in Indonesia toward gender equity is mostly contributed through religion sectors. So the interpretations of the Holy Book, Quran, when they explore and they interpret this, and then the value of gender equity then taken up, and then it is taught to the Islamic scholars who attend the Islamic universities, and then they are brought to the people, to the community. So they bring values to the people, and that has made changes in the mindset of the people toward the gender equity. So what we are doing now is intensifying gender integration into the curriculum of the religion university, with the expectation that all the scholars graduated will bring the true value of gender equity to the people and maintain the understanding for better equity between men and women. That's what we are doing now, and we hope that we can expand the coverage throughout the country. So for the second question, also on barrier on social culture, I think this is closely related to interpretation of the Al-Quran. And what is the important also, the indicators, how can we see the progress of all the development is through the indicators. We have to set what indicators going to be used to see the financial inclusions in all the strategy of the activities is done, and see how can we measure that. And I agree that education is very important, and it is stated in Al-Quran that Iqra is something that the first we have to do. So similarly at industrial state, so the understanding on gender equity is something that we have to upgrade from time to time. We have to change the minds of the people that population consists of women, men and women, and they represent half of the populations, and they can contribute better for people's welfare when they are given opportunity and they are given the facility as given to men. So this is about gender equity and about the understanding on how we can improve the better understanding on gender equity. And now worldwide there is the initiation of the movement, so-called he for she. I think some of you have already aware of this, that what men can contribute to the progress of women throughout the world. Thank you.
Distinguished audience and experts, I'm very sorry to say that Maghrib has come, and I think I was told that we should conclude. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions, and I'd like to ask the organizers, can we continue one more, or shall we now conclude? I think I was told that we should respect the prayer time. Yes? We can always, I think we are still having programs tonight, dinner or something, and that's what I was told at the beginning. Shall we conclude?
Can I have one question, please?
Well,
it's from the floor, not from the advisory. Okay. Can I? Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Lady Hanifa. I'm the member of Parliament, member of the House of Representatives of Republic Indonesia. Thank you for the opportunities and thank you for the panelists. I just worry about, I just want to give comments and want to challenge the panelists because I was worried about the explanation about that we are making the indicators of women access to finance based on the how many women can have bank account in each country. The problem is, such as in Indonesia, we have the government have program of conditional cash transfer, and it makes the women who receive the program, they should have the bank account, but only for receive the conditional cash transfer. This year's minimum, we have 6 million women have bank account, but only for receiving that. And so we can't use the number of open bank based on women's name as the indicator, because it's only for receiving and not saving and not doing other financing. So economic activities. So we think that we should redefine about this, because each country has a different program about this. The first is that. The second is, if we talk about the microfinancing, the problem is marketing and how to improve their business. So I want to challenge the panelists and maybe all of us here, how we can define the mechanism system of accompanying the women who receive the microfinance to more increase their business, marketing or something like that. So they don't stop doing business because of the lack of the other access beside of the bank account. So maybe this is our problem. Maybe in so many countries about that. So we should think about that, and we hope that the panelists can think about that, and maybe we can discuss about the mechanism of accompanying the women. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. I think I would like to have both of the member of the IDB Women's Advisory Panel to respond, because although this is our common work, all of us, all countries, in particular IDB, but it's mainly IDB Board or Advisory Panel's responsibility. So may I invite them to respond?
For the indicators, I'm not involved in the finance. I am involved in the education sector. We are actually developing the indicators at country level, at sub-regional level, at regional level, and at international level. So for the finance, Abda, this is your work. As far as the microfinance is concerned, we definitely need to, it's education again.
Just briefly, with regards to the indicators, if you remember, I mentioned that one of our recommendations as a panel was for gender disaggregated data. And maybe the last slide that I did not discuss was my policy recommendation that the IDB should play a catalytic role, but also that we should all work on getting improved gender disaggregated data. And now, if you were provoked by the fact that we were only talking about women having accounts as an indicator, this is because the Global Findex database, which is a global database, has those indicators available. Now it is up to us in each of our countries to provide the kind of data that is needed and that reflects our perspectives and reflects our cultures. So in Indonesia, if this is a problem you have with regards to accounts, then you should definitely work on collecting and analyzing gender disaggregated data that are specific to women and specific to the issues with regards to accounts. And this should be your main requirement, even with you as policymakers. You need to have this data in order to be informed about what are the barriers, what are the problems facing women in order to access. As policymakers, they need this data, but not only policymakers, even the financial institutions who provide the funds, who provide the financing, cannot understand the needs and the potential of women if they do not have the right data. So I think the indicators is a problem that I would like to see in our financial inclusion policies, but I would like to see them based on actual and strong quality data on women issues, very specific. This is one issue. With regards to microfinance, I think this addresses an important issue, and worldwide you can see how important microfinance has become for small and medium enterprises, but for micro enterprises, sorry. But the poor need access to financial services more than anything else. And if they have this access, and if this is linked, and I mentioned it in my presentation, if it's linked to entrepreneurial education, and if it is linked to access to financial services, then it automatically improves your marketing abilities and your ability to manage your business. So access to finances is important, but linking that to entrepreneurial education and linking it to formal education will solve many of our problems. Thank you.
Yeah, small comments. I think bank accounts is not the only indicators that we are supposed to have. I think it depends on the objective of the financial inclusions that we have to add other indicators such as the progress of the business of them who get the assistance, and also the income that they can earn from the progress of the business. And the issue of the assistance is also important, that when someone is given capital, for example, or just given some education, they need to have continued assistance during the progress that they are supposed to make. Pendamping. The success of the business, particularly in micro enterprises, is very much dependent on the intensity of assistance given or provided for them. It's important.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you, but allow me to get a little bit of conclusion from my point of view. It seems to me that one very important thing that comes out, that we do need to continue work which is already done by most, and that is statistics, gender disaggregated statistics, but we have not been doing studies on these gaps, because gender disaggregated statistics only shows you the gender gaps. It does not show you why the gender gap exists, why different from place to place, from time to time, why it closes at some places at certain times, and why it's diminishing at certain place and certain time. So I just would like to announce that Indonesia now has association of graduate program on gender studies, women and children studies in the whole country, in order to study the gender gaps and of course come out with what should be done to close the gender gaps. And finally, I also would like to remind us all, including IDB, that there exists in this world Convention on the Right of Corporate, CSR, Corporate Social Responsibilities Convention. I like to remind us all, I don't know how many of IDB countries ratified, Indonesia has ratified this. So we should also look for the contribution from the CSR, the corporates, to help us to do all. Statistics is already done by government, but we need a lot of studies by not only experts on gender issues, but we also see the priority are education. So we need to make sure that our teacher association or lecturers association are also into this issue. And secondly, medical, because the health of women are very, very much important to determine what they can do and whether or not they can enter the world to contribute as well as men. In particular, reproductive health. You see, this is very important. This is one of the rights of women also. And also employment issues. In other words, ILO exists, UNESCO exists. All we need to do, and I suggest the IDB also give the IDB perspective to UNESCO, ILO, and all the other associations of the United Nations. Because after all, this is what they are here for, to give the perspective of Islam in all these international agreements. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again. Congratulations for those who have received homework here. All of us have homework. Thank you very much. I turn it back to the organizer. Oh, yes, that's what I mean. We can pray first. So thank you. See you all again sometime, somewhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we ask you to please remain seated as we will have the opening ceremony of the 8th Women Advisory Panel and welcoming dinner in a short time. Thank you. May I have attention, please, ladies and gentlemen? May we ask you to please remain seated as we will have the opening ceremony of the 8th Women Advisory Panel begin shortly. gitu tahu. Nani dibayar 2,5 juta. Oh ya, saya ganti.
Kelihatan agak modal gitu.
Namanya Siwi Lestari. Dokter Anda Siwi Lestari.
hasilnya English ini ya, tetap ya.
Ini